working. And my proposal was to split the museum into two. The permanent exhibits at one end, the auditoria and library and changing exhibitions on the other, to flood the valley into a series of water gardens and to link it all to the fort and to the downtown. And the structures rise from the sand cliffs. They're built in concrete and sandstones. The roofs are stainless steel. They are facing south and reflecting light towards the temple itself. Pedestrians crisscross from one side to the other. And as you come from the north, it is all masonry growing out of the sand cliffs as you come from the Himalayas and evoking the tradition of the fortress. And then I went away for 4 months, and there was going to be a groundbreaking. And I came back, and lo and behold, the little model I'd left behind had been built 10 times bigger for public display on the site. And the bridge was built. We didn't do working drawings. And 500,000 people gathered for the celebrations. You can see them on the site itself as the foundations are beginning. I was renamed Safdie Singh, and there it is under construction. There are 1,800 workers at work, and it will be finished in 2 years. Back to Yad Vashem, 3 years ago, after all this episode began, Yad Vashem decided to rebuild completely the historic museum because now Washington was built, the Holocaust Museum in Washington, and that museum is so much more comprehensive in terms of information, and Yad Vashem needs to deal with 3 million visitors a year at this point. They said, let's rebuild the museum. But of course, the Sikhs might give you a job on a platter. The Jews make it hard. International competition, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And again, I felt kind of uncomfortable with the notion that a building the size of the Washington building, 50,000 square feet, will sit on that fragile hill, and that we will go into galleries, rooms with doors and sort of familiar rooms to tell the story of the Holocaust. And I proposed that we cut through the mountain. That was my first sketch. Just cut the whole museum through the mountain. Enter from one side of the mountain, come out on the other side of the mountain. And then bring light through the mountain into the chambers. And here you see the model, a reception building and some underground parking. You cross a bridge, you enter this triangular room, 60 feet high, which cuts right into the hill and extends right through as you go towards the north. And all of it then, all the galleries are underground, and you see the openings for the light. And at night, just one line of light cuts through the mountain, which is a skylight on top of that triangle. And all the galleries, as you move through them and so on, are below grade. And there are chambers carved in the rock, concrete walls, stone, the natural rock when possible, with the light shafts. This is actually a Spanish quarry, which sort of inspired the kind of spaces that these galleries could be. And then coming towards the north, it opens up, it bursts out of the mountain into again a view of light and of the city and of the Jerusalem hills. I'd like to conclude with a project I've been working on for 2 months. It's the headquarters for the Institute of Peace in Washington, the U.S. Institute of Peace. The site chosen is across from the Lincoln Memorial. You see it there, directly on the mall. It's the last building on the mall, on access of the Roosevelt Bridge that comes in from Virginia. That too was a competition, and it is something I'm just beginning to work on. But one recognized the kind of uniqueness of the site. If there were to be anywhere in Washington, there would be an office building, a conference center, a place for negotiating peace, and so on, all of which the building is. But by virtue of the choice of putting it on the mall and by the Lincoln Memorial, this becomes the structure that is the symbol of peace on the mall. And that was a lot of heat to deal with. The first sketch recognizes that the building is many spaces, spaces where research goes on, conference centers, a public building because it will be a museum devoted to peacemaking. And these are the drawings that we submitted for the competition, the plan showing the spaces which radiate outwards from the entry. You see the structure as in the sequence of structures on the mall, very transparent and inviting and looking in. And then as you enter it again, looking in all directions towards the city. And what I felt about that building is that it really was a building that had to do with a lightness of being, to quote Kundera, that it had to do with whiteness, it has to do with a certain dynamic quality, and it had to do with optimism. And this is where it is. It's sort of evolving. Studies for the structure of the roof, which demand maybe new materials, how to make it white, how to make it translucent, how to make it glowing, how to make it not capricious. And here, studying in 3 dimensions, how to give some kind, again, of a order, a structure, not something you feel you could just change because you stopped the design of that particular process. And so it goes. I'd like to conclude by saying something. I'd like to conclude by relating all of what I've said to the term beauty. And I know it is not a fashionable term these days, and certainly not fashionable in the discourse of architecture schools. But it seems to me that all this, in one way or the other, is a search for beauty. Beauty in the most profound sense of fit. I have a quote that I like by a morphologist, 1917. Theodore Cook, who said, "Beauty connotes humanity. We call a natural object beautiful because we see that its form expresses fitness, the perfect fulfillment of function." Well, I would have said the perfect fulfillment of purpose. Nevertheless, beauty as the kind of fit, something that tells us that all the forces that have to do with our natural environment have been fulfilled, and our human environment for that. 20 years ago, in a conference Richard and I were together, I wrote a poem which seems to me to still hold for me today. "He who seeks truth shall find beauty. He who seeks beauty shall find vanity. He who seeks order shall find gratification. He who seeks gratification shall be disappointed. He who considers himself the servant of his fellow beings shall find the joy of self-expression. He who seeks self-expression shall fall into the pit of arrogance. Arrogance is incompatible with nature. Through nature, the nature of the universe and the nature of man, we shall seek truth. If we seek truth, we shall find beauty." Thank you very much.